for the first time on camera. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cinema Shakedown, the weekly podcast that functions as a grab bag for all things film. I'm your host, Kyle Craigbaum.
And I'm your other host, Jordan Dennis. And guess what?
We got a third.
We brought another goober with us.
Who the fuck are you?
I'm your new host, the Pale White Demon, Dylan.
My God. They do call you that. They do.
Yeah.
Everybody calls me the Pale
They,
White Demon
the anonymous they.
God forbid, after they see this podcast, too, everyone's going to be calling me the Pale
100%. We can sell merch of that. We can put it on t-shirts, mugs.
PWD, baby.
Yeah, dude.
So, we've been gone a while.
Yeah. It's been a minute.
We've been gone a while. We got busy with life shit.
Sometimes life gets busy,
You know?
man.
Like, we were gone, but then we had that fucking craving. We were like,
That
fuck,
yearning, that urge.
we need to talk about movies.
You guys got out of your manic depression.
Yes.
We have shit to say about film.
Oh, yeah.
And people need to hear it, I think.
Yep.
So here we are.
We're here. We're ready. This is
Can't
We're
fucking get rid
this
of
is
it
it.
that easy.
So, catch up, boys. What have you been watching the last few weeks? What have you been playing? TV shows, movies, anything?
Good lord.
What's going on?
Let me look at my fucking letterbox.
I can go first. I watched one of the
Scour.
worst movies.
Okay, we're
I
starting
watched one of the
strong.
worst movies last night.
Yeah.
Just fucking high on Ambien, eating SpaghettiOs and meatballs by myself.
Real shit.
Decided to, I wanted to test my limits when it comes to, how much trauma I can handle. There's a movie called 22 July on Netflix.
It's about that real life thing.
It is
isn't
about
the terrorist.
this Nazi
Yeah.
that basically he
I know.
bombed
Yeah.
2 government buildings in Norway.
Whoa.
And then, I guess he just ordered Amazon, or he ordered, police gear off of Amazon and pretended to be a cop and got on a boat
Yeah.
to this island where a youth camp is going on. And he
Massacres.
runs amok. he has a swell time.
So how offensive is this movie?
It
at
is.
portraying-
There's a whole
Yeah.
portion of it similar to Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
It cuts back and forth, especially after it highlights the massacre.
Yeah.
Which it doesn't fucking shy away from at all.
Yeah.
It really shows you how deep he went. I will say the kid performances are. It is
Yeah.
traumatizing. It's pretty fucked up to watch.
Yeah.
but tasteless.
But there's portions of it where it's an interview with him, and how dare you give time of the day to hear this guy out?
Yeah. What makes this guy tick?
Let's
I
hear
wonder.
this Nazi out that just massacred.
That's a Paul Greengrass, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hold on. Let's hear what he
Let's
has
hear
to
what
say.
he has to say.
Paul Greengrass did that?
Yeah, he did.
What's it called? 22 July?
Yeah.
When did this come out?
I don't remember.
2018.
It was like a Netflix movie, I think.
It is a
yeah,
Netflix
I never watched
Who's
it.
in this?
No
one?
Norwegian people?
But
Wow.
what's interesting about it, it's not even a foreign film. The perpetrator just speaks in English.
It sounds awful.
I was watching it again,
Yeah.
high on Ambien, eating SpaghettiOs and meatballs, just what the fuck is this?
That seems like the best condition, I think, to watch that movie.
That type of movie, yeah.
That's what Paul Greengrass...
Just drooling.
That's what he had in mind. We're talking about director's intent.
Yeah.
I couldn't see it any more clearly
That's
than
the
that.
creative vision.
Yeah.
Am I going next? Are you going next?
I think you're going next.
Okay. I mean, I'm not going to go through over all of it. We've been gone a long time, obviously.
Yeah, let's catch up on every movie
every
we've
single-
missed,
I could.
actually, real quick.
No.
Just start naming them off. We'll just start giving the ratings.
So I watched a lot of the Apes movies because we were going to start with that episode a few weeks, and then we decided this one would be better for it. I like all of the Apes movies that I watched. I only watched the original, the sequel trilogy, and Kingdom.
Well, don't forget to mention we did start to watch Tim Burton's Planet of
We
the
got
Apes.
about 30 minutes in before...
crazy.
And eventually we tapped out. No, we made it a good chunk. We were towards...
30 minutes.
But we just stopped paying attention at a certain point, and we were like, I can't do this.
Crazy.
I'm actually one of the biggest defenders of Kingdom because I think it's very underrated in the last couple months.
Interesting.
Thought it rocked.
It is wild seeing how many different opinions there were of it.
It reminded me of Avatar: The Way of Water, and I think that's great. Where it focused more on the myth making and the environmental storytelling than it did the actual narrative, and that's something that appeals to me. Challengers, I've seen twice.
So good, dude.
Obviously,
Luca Guadagnino.
King. I saw Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, which was anticipated for me. I loved it. I'm a huge fan of the show. David Lynch, Daddy.
To get to that one.
And then the only other thing I will shout out is I saw the TV Glow, which is my favorite movie of the year. One of my movies of the decade so far. It's fucking incredible. I wish I had the words right now for it, but I do not.
I was so stoked to because what was the one before it? Like Dune Part 2?
Yes,
we all
yes.
kind of had
and
just like
and I still think obviously Dune Part 2 is an epic on like a scale we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
It could easily still be my favorite movie of the year, but this one's a lot more personal to me and my taste and the things that I appreciate.
I have a similar one, Jordan, before you go, that again, like Dune Part 2, Empire Strikes Back, just a monument of a fucking movie.
Oh man.
But I watched one called La Chimera, because after I saw Challengers, I was like, I need to inject Josh O'Connor into my veins. And the movie was made for me. I still don't have, kind of similar to you, I just don't have words. It's made for me.
Too many words so none come out.
Yeah. Not enough words. So I try.
Been watching absolutely nothing, not shit. Dude. Mad Max movies to get us prepared for this.
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
You had a drought for a little bit?
Dune Part 2, good. Challengers, good. Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire, good. Yeah, I think that's all I've seen this year.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, that's about it recently.
Yeah, you guys didn't do a Barbenheimer episode, did you?
We stopped right
we
before
sure
Barben.
didn't. No,
I think that was like the initiation that we didn't know.
Never forget what we took from you.
I know.
That was you guys sort of like feeling it out whether I would be.
Oppenheimer was the movie of last year, if you want to know mine.
That's not true, actually. It was John Wick Chapter 4. And I can
I'm not gonna. It's in
and
my.
I can attest to that.
It's in my top 4. I'm not gonna argue against that. I'm not gonna argue against that. Do we want to fucking hop into this?
Let's do it. Let's hop in our metal cars. I guess all cars are metal, but even more metal cars, metaler cars. Let's hop on the Fury Road and let's get rocking.
We are going to talk about all the fucking Mad Max
Every
movies.
single fucking one.
So
didn't miss one.
Except for the holiday special.
Except for the holiday special. Just we all know it's really good.
We're going to start with 1979's Mad Max.
Hold up, I'm sorry, real quick. Dylan, have you seen the Star Wars holiday special?
Yeah,
it's incredible.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
So, yes, we are going to start with 1979's Mad Max, the directorial debut of George Miller.
Yeah.
Made for a...
Happy Feet. Happy Feet 2, I think. Babe Pig in the City.
That was when he found his ground.
Yeah.
I think those are the only non-Mad... 3,000 Years of Longing.
Yes.
I think those are the only non-Mad Max George Miller movies I can name.
This movie was made for chump change, $400,000.
Chump change?
Yeah.
I guess in 1979 that would have translated.
It's a little more, but it's still...
It's also more money than I've ever seen in my entire life.
But in terms of a budget where you're like blowing up cars and shit...
Maybe it's Australian money too.
Yeah, it's true.
What? Can we get this down to the boys in the lab? What do they use in Australia? Is it pounds?
Aussies. Kangaroos.
They trade kangaroos for it.
Yeah, their wallets are like Mary Poppins' purse. You can keep like 50 of those fucking things in there. It's crazy.
Dude, okay. Just before you get into it,
yes,
the guy was a fucking doctor before he made Mad Max. He was I don't know which type of medical professional, but he was like a doctor.
Very interesting.
I don't know how old, but he was just like, I'm gonna.
How old was he when he made this movie?
He's like in his 70s now. So
look up the stats. Let's run the math.
He was like 20s, late 20s, early 20s. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna read the plot synopsis that IMDb gives you because I think it's not what the movie is.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
In a post-apocalyptic future, jaded cop Max Roktansky is ready to retire, but his world is shattered when a malicious gang murders his family as an act of retaliation, forcing a devastated Max to hit the open road seeking vengeance.
It's like the last 20 minutes.
That's the last 20 minutes of the film.
It's like the finale.
It's very...
Everything else before that is just kind of vibes.
Let's get into this. This is a weird movie.
Yeah.
Weird as in, I have not seen a movie paced like this, like, ever. It kind of, like, starts and then stops and doesn't really find, like, its direction until halfway
movie.
through until the next.
No, like I said, it's like vibes. You know,
Yeah.
it exists purely as proof of concept to get you acclimated
That's a great
to this
phrase.
character, this
Yes.
world, how it works.
Proof of concept's a great.
They said,
way
"All
to
right, let's do a
describe
silly
it. Yeah.
one,"
And
and
it's
then now.
still, like, it came out in the 70s, during the cynical 70s, so it's
Sure.
still kind of like this, low budget sort of like...
It's. I'm also not like super familiar with like classic like literary sci-fi, but like something about like a post-apocalypse set in a future where all like the resources had run dry. Like humanity had just like run these resources into the ground. I'm not sure like how common or popular.
So
that
they
was
were
at the
having a
time.
gas crisis
Yeah,
at the
like,
time. So it was based on that. And so I'll let you know, this movie lost me and won me back
Yeah.
multiple times over it. I'm overall very lukewarm on it, but I respect it for how much they were
There's
able
cool
to do
stuff in there.
with so
There's some
little.
cool stuff in there.
There are some, more than any of the other films in this franchise, some of the stunts in this movie feel like, did someone just die?
Yeah, this feels very. This feels like a very unsafe.
I'm gonna get into
movie.
a couple of them later, but there are some stunts I was like, that is reckless, dangerous shit.
They beat the OSHA representatives off with a stick on set. They said, "You don't want any part of this."
Spiders and
But
shit.
yeah, this is definitely a strange movie because Max is not the main character for the first half. I
Is
would
Max
say
really the main character in any of them except Road Warrior?
that's a good point. But like in this one, he is the main character of the second half of the
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
But it's his. I'm forgetting the partner's name.
Goose.
Goose. Goose is kind of the main character.
Don't quote me
of,
on
like,
that.
a portion.
It's some sort of bird.
No, it's Goose.
It's a very hammy movie, very corny. Some of the editing is straight bizarre.
Yeah.
Do you
Which
think
I could actually...
Hold up, I'm sorry. Do you think that's a direct reference in Top Gun then?
Goose?
Yeah.
Very well could.
Maybe.
Do you think that's
Yeah. Tony Scott? Maybe.
Something to that, maybe.
He might appreciate this. Actually, Tony Scott would probably love this one.
Yeah, R.I.P. Tony Scott. You would have
But
loved the original
this
Mad
is
Max.
before kind of Mel Gibson gets into his like rugged. He's kind of like
I thought you were going to say this was before Mel Gibson got into like
The anti-Semitic.
his nowadays antics.
This is before he kind of got to like the like rugged, charismatic force that he is in the
He's
sequels.
still kind of baby faced.
He's like a baby faced, like he's a nice family guy.
Very
man.
stoic.
Can I just say,
Family Guy mentioned.
guy's a fucking stud in
Yeah.
1979.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
he looks great in all
Oh, yeah.
of them.
And like, I think kind of to add on to what you're saying, like, he still had like that sort of like quiet stoicism. So like, there's a lot of shots of him just like looking at shit, and I'm looking at him just like, oh, what?
Yeah, no, it's like the chiseled. It's that Australian look.
Yeah.
Like he could fucking.
Heath Ledger had it too.
He could knife a crocodile or something. Like if I was stuck out in the goddamn outback, like that's a dude I would
I would
trust.
take Mel Gibson
Yeah.
with me, dude.
The main issue I'd say I have with this is that the plot is almost incomprehensible.
Yeah.
Like there are points
All
they're
over
like,
the place.
oh yeah, this character's going to court, and then he's not going to court because it got canceled. But then you're like, what the fuck? They
Funny
didn't
that
set
they
up
have
any
a
of it.
court in it.
Yeah,
That's
like,
true.
weird.
Very funny.
That leads me to my second problem. The world building in this movie is like straight nonsensical.
It is also kind of all over the place because on one hand it wants you to think that it's this post-apocalyptic sort of like
Right.
world's end
Like,
type of deal, but
but-
then it still has structure and like a police force.
But it's so funny because then you look at that, and then looking ahead, you look at like Fury Road and Furiosa, where it feels like it's set in fucking like Middle Earth.
Yeah.
And it's like, where the fuck did things like continue to go wrong here? Because in the first Mad Max, it kind of seems like the world ended, but like we kind of got our shit together a little bit afterwards.
Yeah.
On the positive side, I will say I think immediately the aesthetic choices are very confident in themselves.
Yeah.
He wanted this whole like punk
George Miller
rocker,
clearly
biker aesthetic.
like had a vision for this thing from
Yeah.
the jump.
That's the best thing.
all
about
the
it.
villains are so like cartoony and like also kind kind of gay coded somewhat.
Yeah.
They're like leather.
Oh, you want to talk about gay coded?
Well, we'll get to the second.
Wait,
We'll get to
just
the second
wait.
one. But like,
Assless chaps McGee.
so yes, as you were saying earlier with proof of concept, it's all that stuff like the aesthetic choices that are immediately like he knows what he wants to do when he gets the money later.
Nothing to do with like directly like the content of the movie, but the
Yeah.
movie that this reminds me the most of is the first Evil Dead. What are you giggling about over there?
Just thinking about the next few movies.
Yeah,
how bad shit gets.
funny
But
stuff.
yeah, it reminds me the most of the first Evil Dead in terms
Scrappy.
of like it's almost like more of a blueprint than a movie. It's like stream of consciousness. It's like George Miller sitting you down and basically being like, okay, so there's this guy Max, and he drives a really fast car, and he's a cop, and he drives it into a truck, and it blows up, and then his wife and his kid get run over, and you're like, oh, George, okay, all right, slow down. Like,
I think that is a good comparison.
But there's like a charm to it.
Yeah.
There's a charm to it.
It's a director figuring themselves out as they make a movie.
Yeah.
Essentially.
100%.
But
it's also still so impressive, like, how much of that style was also, like, already there from the get-go. Like...
and it's still, like, super grounded, which...
Yeah, it's probably the most grounded of all of
so
them.
This is my kind of hot take, because, like, I was a fan of Mad Max when I was, like, young.
Yeah.
Like, still figuring out that I liked movies.
Mm-hmm. I'm still not sure.
And so originally it was one that we'll get to where it was like kind of the surprise, like, oh wait, that's my favorite Mad Max movie.
Yeah.
I came out of rewatching these. I love the first Mad Max just purely based off of how grounded it is.
Yeah.
And and I know it's kind of a fault, but it's like it is kind of like you could see it happening in the near future.
I agree with you. I think the two sequels kind of strike a good balance that I really like,
100%.
where this one's maybe a little too grounded,
Yeah.
and then like Fury Road and Furiosa are a little
Go
too
in there.
fantastical a little bit. You know what I mean? But I agree with you. Like, I think like
It feels like a 70s like noir in a really ambitious.
It feels like a bunch of buddies got some like wrecked cars together, went out into the bush.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like,
That's another thing about it is like it's just Australia.
yeah, that's just what it's like. It's like
Yeah.
you could tell me, you could totally remove any mention of like an apocalypse happening, and I would not question that this was happening in Australia.
Yeah. Another positive I will say, there are parts of the score that are really good in this first movie.
Yeah.
Weird and like it's just a strange score.
It is strange.
Industrial almost.
We were when we watched Thunderdome, I noticed the composer of the first two was named Brian May.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure, we had to look it up, I wasn't sure if it was that
It's
Brian
not
May,
that
the guitarist from Queen. That would have been cool as fuck.
I want to get to a couple of the stunts that they do. First of all, the whole first like 15 minutes is one like elongated.
Yeah. Oh, dude, Max's introduction, where like the other cops are going after the Knight Rider and everything, like
There are some crazy crashes in that scene.
It's insane.
The one where I was like, did this dude, is he okay? Is in the like later half of the movie. There's a motorcycle guy that falls off of it, and then another motorcycle hits him in the head, straight hits him, and I was like, what the fuck?
No, Kyle, that dude died. He's not okay.
I was like, that's crazy, reckless shit. I love it. They do something really cool with the villain, which we haven't talked about, Toe Cutter.
They go to TC.
But right before he dies, they make this fucking elaborate practical like face of his eyes like popping out like a cartoon.
It's just for a very like split second
blue?
shot.
I respect the hell out of that crazy shit, man. For a split second frame shot to make a fucking practical.
Also very Evil Dead of it.
Very. Yeah.
Shout out to Hugh Keys Byrne, who also will make another appearance later in this franchise, who plays Toe Cutter.
Yes. Man.
I love it.
Anything else to add to this one?
No, I think just the ultimate takeaway was that I was so pleasantly surprised with just how like bare bones, how low budget, just like literally putting together scraps and just destroying them.
I think this movie should be more of a staple in like film school curriculum.
Yeah.
If you're trying to show like the capabilities of with like a quote unquote shoestring budget, like listen, $400,000, you know. It's,
what we have access to nowadays, though. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, but it is still. It is a testament to low budget filmmaking, and I have to respect the hell out of it.
It is a low budget masterpiece.
Oh, yeah.
That being said, 3.5.
3.
Yeah. 3.
Yeah.
58%.
58%.
I'm doing it.
Kyle, no. Kyle, you did this whole. Hold the fuck up, Kyle. You did this whole bit the entire last time. I don't know if it's the Asperger's or what it is that's like taking over your brain.
Oh, it's definitely the Asperger's. Yeah.
Listen, I'm putting my foot down. I am not asking. I am drawing a line in the sand.
Yeah.
We're sticking to the out of 5 system, or I swear to God, I will tear your whole head off and eat it.
I would have failed.
He's gonna hate me
class
later
with
in
that score. Like,
Yeah. 58?
yeah, that's an F.
It's not an F in movie scale.
Yeah, and also that's what I'm saying. Now it gets confusing because it's like because
No,
the American education system completely fucked everyone's perception of 100%.
Yeah, because now they think a bare bone average is a 7.
Yeah.
Like
You know
a
what would
7.
not make that confusing?
Yeah.
If you just did 3 out of 5.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna make it as confusing as possible.
Let's go.
One thing I'll add.
Tune into Dylan and Jordan's Cinema Shakedown next week.
One thing I will add is he literally Max in the last scene of this movie puts a guy in a saw trap.
Yeah, he sure does.
Yeah. He's like, saw off your fucking... He literally does if you can't cut through the metal, but you can saw through your bone, asshole.
No, John Kramer saw that movie as a young man in theaters, and he took great inspiration from that, I think.
Oh, man. I want to add that this is my first time watching all of these except Fury Road. So these are all like first-time
Like in
watches for me.
succession.
Yeah, same.
No, like, ever.
Oh, yeah.
These are all first-time watches for me besides Fury Road. So, yes. So we agree that it is... I mean, you
Pretty
like
good.
it more than us, but...
Yeah.
Pretty good start.
It's decent. It's decent.
But that's amateur hour. Now George is gonna cook.
Gnarly business.
Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, 1981. It follows Max... between movies, a fucking... apocalypse happens.
Another apocalypse. A secondary apocalypse happens.
That turns the entire world, whatever we can see, into an area called the Wasteland, which is just desert. Just nothing.
Well, I guess minor spoilers, I guess, for Furiosa. That and this one are the only movies that ostensibly, like, explicitly make sure we know this is set in Australia.
Yes.
Besides the fact that everyone speaks with Australian accents. Because in Furiosa, you have that one shot where it's, like, the zoom out, like, from Australia, like, in.
Yeah.
And in this one, a dead kangaroo pops in at some point.
So yes, so it is the apocalypse, and the main resource is gas. Gasoline. And so everyone kind of roams the wasteland in these bugged out, crazy ass vehicles.
Like, you got these different factions, like, people trying to band together.
And Max is just in it for himself. He is a lone ranger.
Lone Rider.
Some sort of road warrior.
And in this one, he stumbles across a group of people that are unlike a fuel depot type situation.
They have like a big, what do you call it, a pump jack or whatever.
Yep.
One of those.
And,
so they're able to like produce gasoline, and they're hoarding it.
And Max agrees to help these people fend off one of the rival gangs if they give him as much gas as he can.
Yeah,
carry.
Sidney Pride rolls up to this oil refinery and says, "Give me your fucking gasoline."
Give me your gasoline.
And
Give me your gasoline. That's what I call my love juice.
you should.
That's what I'm gonna start calling it. Sorry.
Gasoline.
Gasoline, dude.
I believe that.
Gasoline.
Does it come out black and chunky?
Oh, dude, I'm so glad you guys had me on this podcast.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not.
I hope you know next time we're in a car and it breaks down, I'm gonna put you to that. I'm gonna have you nut into the fucking exhaust.
This is crazy. Should we cut this?
No, absolutely not.
Crank out some gasoline.
This is the content that the people came here
Yeah,
for,
I mean-
I think.
If it's not this, then it's.
You're telling me George Miller, if given the opportunity, would not put somebody nutting into the car exhaust of like some twisted metal fucking machine gun van?
I will say, like the first one has like straight up like rape implications.
Yeah, it sure does.
It's the only one.
This one
that,
does too.
You see a guy running away with some blood coming out of his ass in the first one.
Yes, but in the second one, it is like pretty explicit that he rapes the one girl that he pulls out the car.
Yeah. I guess the first one was just more like shocking. Like, oh fuck.
So to get to this one, it is immediately so much more confident than the original.
Yeah.
Like from
Looks
the
better, sounds better.
$3 million extra dollars.
Amazing what it can do.
Oh my god. Yeah, it looks better. There's an opening action scene that's great. It immediately gets into the hook of the plot. Like, he runs across a side character, which I love. It's a helicopter pilot. I'm forgetting the character's name. I don't even think he has a name.
Gyro Captain? That's
Yes.
what they call him?
Captain.
And he's such a fun character to kind of lead Max to this gang of people. And
Shame he never shows up again.
yeah. But yes, it's so much more confident in its vision for this world. These factions get kind of developed.
It's kind
more.
of like it's kind of the start of turning this into more of like a sci-fi fantasy setting.
Yes.
A little bit more rather than just like pure hard sci-fi.
I was struck immediately by how characterful for the movie is because there's a sequence in the first 5 minutes where Max finds a music box and he plays it to himself and smiles. It's more character than he has in like the entire first movie.
ever been given, yeah.
And it's like, holy shit, it's a great moment.
Yeah.
It's in general, the movie is kind of structured a lot more like an adventure serial than the original.
Yeah.
Like it kind of feels like an Indiana Jones type adventure sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, the first one is like an origin, so you know.
Yes.
But this one just feels.
But this
like
one and Thunderdome
one of his
feel like that.
One of his many adventures.
More than anything,
Correct.
Indiana Jones.
But there's more comedy in it too.
Yeah, it's a little goofy.
It's a little goofy. Sometimes for ill. Most of the time it works for me. It did make me laugh.
Thought it was really funny when the little feral kid threw a boomerang. Into
that seems wild.
That guy's gimp's face.
I'm not even the biggest fan of that kid, but
hey, he's all right.
Yeah. I feel like I'm talking a lot. What do you guys have?
Well,
to
you
say
got the
about
notes,
this?
dog.
Yeah, I guess I do. just to kind of string us along. Like, yeah, it's just there's a lot of really good character moments in this one. There's like the leader of the tribe of people.
That whole discussion he has with Max towards the end of the film about driving the rig or not is so good. Where he's like, what does he say to him? He's like, you think you're the only one who's lost anyone? Or something like, damn,
it's a great scene. It's a great and like those little moments are what like flesh out the world and the characters and
that's my thing about it. It's definitely like the most because Thunderdome. Obviously, we'll get to that, but it's like it kind of plays into the whimsy of it all.
Yeah,
the Road Warrior kind of is the perfect in between of like, bare bones, kind of like in the nitty gritty of it, but also like kind of like silly, also tender human moments. But it is weirdly that perfect in between.
Yeah,
I still kind of have the same problem, which I didn't highlight in the first Mad Max. The second act, I just don't
find it as interesting.
I don't know if it's just like, I mean, I don't have TikTok, but my attention span could definitely, I mean, I did drugs for fucking 6 years. Like, it could be me personally. I just kind of lose engagement with, like, and that's across the board for all the Mad Max movies. And
this one was a little less so for me because I'm entertained by this group of people.
Well, entertaining 100. Like,
well, I think it's
again the human.
I think it's also.
I
think if this is a safe space, I'm just going to come out and say the characters in the Mad Max movies are not some of the deepest and most interesting.
Of course not. Of course not.
They don't necessarily have to be.
But the world itself is so compelling that like even if it's slow and I'm a little bored, I guess I'm not like disengaged.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally.
I'm still wanting them to power through the slow stuff because I know it's gonna get good again.
Yeah.
And
I'm not just wishing it would end.
Holy shit, get good again! That third act, man,
incredible.
First of all, they have an explosion.
Hold on, we haven't even talked about Humongous.
So the villain, Humongous, Humongous. He's fine.
Yeah.
His more memorable than him is the side villain with the assless chaps.
And the mohawk? Dude, no, when he fucking... There's that bit where he goes LeBron mode. He, like, swings into, like, the good guy's face and takes out, like, 8 or 9 dudes. He solos, like a dozen guys.
He does a Power Rangers flip over.
Yeah!
Like, lands.
He was doing some stunts where he was, like, pole arming with some of the things that kind of reminded me as, like... proto versions of the stunts we would get later.
He knows what he likes.
Yeah,
George. I put in my notes George Miller is born for this movie.
Yeah,
and I put it
born
in
in fire and chrome.
There's an explosion in the third act that literally shakes the camera. It feels like the biggest explosion that's ever happened. And then that car chase sequence. Oh my god!
Yes,
there's a stunt in it where one car like shoots a grapple onto it and starts getting dragged behind it and like does a flip and like I was like so in at that point. I thought it was fucking incredible.
I just don't know how the fuck they like
accomplish some of that.
Accomplish it and like come out alive.
Yeah,
because like
they're Australian.
They're
quite literally built different.
There's a part where the stuntman hits like a railing and fucking like launches.
And it's.
Yeah.
So, guys, all those stuntmen died. Like, there's not, like...
bodies hidden in the desert.
The sand swept them away.
But yeah, it ends on a high, for sure.
Yeah.
And one of the action scenes in the middle of the movie, you have the helicopter pilot following for it. He dropping.
Actually, Kyle, it's a helio-gyro. That's why he's called the gyro captain.
Yeah. Jordan, correct him, Jordan.
That's all I had. That was the finisher. Let me cup your balls real quick.
Pussy, Jordan.
Stop it. You stop it. And yeah, it just. I love the final twist of the movie where he's not driving. There's nothing in they swap it out.
Yeah.
He's not driving any of the oil because the setup for the finale is that
he has to drive the oil out of this depot, and you think it's in the big rig he's driving.
But he's actually the biggest distraction while they sneak out of the sides of the base.
Did he know that?
I believe so, because he was making the plan.
But he comes out and he reacts to the sand coming out of the tanker and seems surprised by it.
I think it's questioning Max's strategy.
I think so.
I think it's for the audience.
I
think, that weird shot.
I think he got duped.
I put my faith in.
Really?
Max.
That might be. It might be, and I just misread it.
I put my trust in Max.
I may have missed something. I don't know. I thought I liked it, but that was weird for me. I was like, oh, well, they just tricked him in the end.
Yeah.
They bamboozled. He was gonna die for you guys.
Right.
He's literally the Messiah.
Such is life in the wasteland.
Anything else for Road Warrior? Not Fury Road. Nope.
Just as good as I remember.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I think this is probably, if no one had ever seen a Mad Max movie before, I think this would maybe be the first one you show them.
Yeah.
This is kind of like in terms of quintessential. When I think Mad Max, this is the one that comes to my mind. The imagery and everything is just so iconic. 4 stars for humongous.
Strong 4. If you'd like to see my autistic number, follow me on Letterboxd.
Thanks for the viewer discretion.
Keep that. Listen, we respect your beliefs, Kyle. Just keep that shit in Letterboxd. Just keep that shit in Letterboxd.
Keep it on the phone screen, dude.
So yeah, Strong 4. It's fucking awesome. It's a classic, action classic.
Yep.
And that leads us to a movie that is not considered a classic.
Well, Dylan, what was 3.5?
So sorry, I heard him say that. Anyone want to introduce Beyond Thunderdome?
So I have a fun story.
Yeah.
So again, kind of raised on the Mad Max movies.
Yeah.
My mom, God bless her heart, we are not going to name names, show pictures.
Don't want to dox your mother or anything.
She was really obsessed with Tina Turner when she was younger.
Sure.
Actually, with this movie, in fact, she was so obsessed she would consistently ask my grandmother, her mom, when can we go to the Thunderdome?
Yeah, that's awesome.
And of course,
that's sick as fuck.
Kind of the way you break to your kid that Santa isn't real. My grandma would be like, babe, Thunderdome isn't fucking real.
Okay, I imagine they're gonna have the talk hey, we gotta have the talk with her tonight.
Kid, her insane delusion. So, as a middle ground, Halloween night, 1986, I believe, maybe 87. My grandma. My mom wanted to be Tina Turner for Halloween from Beyond Thunderdome.
And I feel like he's leaving out a very crucial piece of information.
Or a building too.
Well, is that Tina Turner is an African American woman. I just I feel like that's really important to this.
So,
what's coming up here?
So,
oh no,
different time.
Oh no.
My grandma totally fake tanned Kim Kardashian, my mom. And there is a picture out there.
We're not going to show the picture.
I'm going to show you guys because it's terrible. I didn't realize.
Show us off camera.
I didn't realize.
For my own personal need, I need to see this.
I forgot how terrifying it is. I forgot how scary blackface is.
Yeah.
I forgot how fucking jarring to look at blackface.
It was an awful practice.
Horrifying, yeah.
It's red lipstick and it was crazy.
Robert Downey Jr. is the only person who can get away with it.
Yeah. And even then, he didn't look too appetizing.
Excuse me.
We're moving on from that. So the movie,
Anyway.
so Beyond Thunderdome, which came out in 84?
Something
84.
like that. The 80s. We're done with the 80s, bro.
And in this one, Max finds himself in this town called
Bartertown,
where
embargo.
everything is ran on pig farts. That's not a joke.
Pig shit.
Pig shit, methane.
Methane.
And one of the main attractions of this town is Thunderdome, where if you have any disagreement or argument with somebody,
you broke the seal because I was totally not gonna hit my vape on air, but I'm so glad you
I've
did
been
it.
doing it the last fucking.
So yeah,
This episode is sponsored by Raz Vapes.
It is not. Please don't fucking sue us, Raz Vapes.
They're not gonna sue us. I'm selling their product. It's fine. It tastes delicious, and yeah, gives you that.
we don't endorse vaping.
Thank you, Jordan Dennis, the face of Raz.
I mean,
So in this town, there's a place called Thunderdome, and it's basically this. If you have any fucking disagreement or argument at all, you just fight to the death.
Settle it like men.
You settle it like men.
I could use a Thunderdome.
You have a wire fight in the
There's
middle of a...
many. I have a list of people that could just handle shit.
And so Tina Turner runs this town, and so she makes a deal with Max, can take out somebody in this Thunderdome, and I will give you everything you need, essentially.
Yeah.
Yes. Are we all good?
Yeah, that is what happens in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
But Max, for circumstances, refuses to kill the person in the Thunderdome. I'm done explaining.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing because I'm thinking of Master Blaster.
I'm laughing because I'm fantasizing about beating the shit out of Ken in the fucking Thunderdome.
Okay, but can we talk about how cool of a concept the Thunderdome is, and how we should maybe implement it in practice into our
In practice,
called the UFC.
politicians.
Yeah, politicians
Yes.
in Thunderdome.
Joe, I am calling
sick.
right now, this November, one night only, pay-per-view, Joe Biden, Donald Trump in the
Fight to the
Thunderdome.
death.
Let these grandpas settle their differences. We're stuck with whichever one lives. God they kill each other and both have heart attacks.
I think we know how that's gonna go.
Yeah. I don't think we do.
Donald Trump would. All he has to do is just sit on.
Doesn't
frail
like
Joe
Trump
Biden.
like shit himself everywhere?
Yeah,
he
he's
goes?
just got to sit on and.
Here's
shit.
the thing.
Yeah.
Joe Biden.
High on Adderall.
Joe Biden is the father of Hunter Biden.
Yeah, he's
That's
got a tag.
but that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like if you put Joe in like a life or death situation where it's him or the guy across from him, something will like
Snap.
activate, like in his old man, like brain, like the jet fuel in his blood is gonna fucking like ignite and he'll just go crazy. But it's the last thing he'll do.
Yeah,
Like
it'll be his last hoorah.
Yeah.
We need to give Joe Biden some fucking crack. Get this country in shape.
No, dude, listen. We take all the crack that the CIA put into low-income communities in the 80s, and we give it back to Joe Biden.
Reparations, bitch.
This is what it's all about, dude.
We can't make up for slavery, so we have to do it.
But I think this is the best. This is Plan B. This is a good Plan B.
Yes, dude.
So Mad Max
Anyways,
Beyond
Mad
Thunderdome.
Max.
I'm done explaining the plot of this goddamn movie.
We've tried to explain the plot of
I'm
Thunderdome.
done. I'm just not.
for like an
I'm not
hour.
talking
Let's
anymore.
get into like how we feel about this movie because it was such a surprise for.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, that is kind of my biggest takeaway from this whole thing is how underrated this movie is.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought this one's pretty good?
So what I've been hearing for years is that the first act was good, and then when the kids come in, it gets bad.
Which is kind of true.
So the second half.
I don't
is
agree.
A mess.
A mess, I will agree.
I think
Tonally, this movie, first of all, Max feels like a different character in this one.
he feels like a different character in all of the
That's
movies,
true, too.
Which is maybe my least favorite thing about this entire
continuity.
franchise is the continuity is so... which, again, I guess is kind of alleviated by the fact it's so episodic. Like, each one... Like, you could almost think about, like, each movie is, like, a different person telling the story of Max. You know what I mean? So there's going to be slight, like... inconsistencies and stuff like that, but I don't know. My particular tism just is like, I just wish there was a little more of a through line here.
Yeah, I totally get that. I think that is fair. It never really bothers me because they're so episodic that I'm like,
back to the Evil Dead comparison, it feels like every movie in this original trilogy is the start to a new trilogy.
Yeah.
In a way, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I agree that it gets messy. The second half of this movie feels like a more family film in ways.
Spielbergian
It kind of feels like hookish.
That's exactly what I said when we were watching it. I said
It honestly reminds me kind of like Labyrinth.
yeah,
Like
dude.
Yep.
Sort of like a Jim Henson kind of like
Yeah.
I think
I could totally see
I
that.
think any of these movies could have greatly benefited from a Jim Henson creature, like some sort of just really really fucked freak.
And David Bowie.
Oh yeah, with his massive codpiece.
But let me get into this. I think this is maybe the best looking Mad Max movie. I think it looks so good.
Yeah.
I think the
Spielberg
first
picture
of,
out
first
a
of
nice
all
fucking baby.
the absolute insane production design.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Like the way they build the city and then the underground of the city, incredible.
Bartertown looks like the fucking set of Mad God, just
Yes.
Mad God is
scrap metal and
It really kind of reminded me. I said this to Jordan. Like it kind of reminds me of Alien 3. A little bit.
Yeah.
Like, where it's like and especially the Thunderdome. It's really kind of like this weird Alien 3 Spielbergian kind of like steampunky.
Yeah. There's always like a haze and like silhouettes and like dark shadows and lights.
It's
and
not
shit.
only the production design, but the lighting. The lighting is fantastic.
The scene where
It's
he
so
first
good.
meets Tina Turner. In like her
awesome.
room where it's like blue lighted, but there's like the industrial fans that are casting the shadows on the wall and everything. Like
they keep doing these shots where a character is silhouetted by like a bright white background and there's fog.
Yeah, dude.
It looks like a music video.
That is
Looks
quite
great.
literally like a play out of the Spielberg like playbook. That is like E.T.
Yep.
It's definitely the sexiest Mad Max movie. Like
Yeah.
I mean, listen, we are not accounting for how in the first movie there is that scene where Max comes home to his beautiful wife wearing nothing but a flannel shirt,
playing
the saxophone on a bearskin rug.
Hysterical.
It's every man's dream.
It's like,
every
that's.
And even when they get, I think why I don't start hating this movie when the kids come in is I actually think the kid acting is pretty good. In
Yeah,
this
they're
movie.
charming.
I think they're charming.
I just don't really give a shit about kids' problems.
That's fair.
Is the
fuck
thing.
them kids.
Well, and I'm not saying the movie gets bad when the kids show up, but it does get worse.
There's a slight lull.
Like
yes.
it does become a worse movie in the second half, but not like it doesn't ruin the experience. Like,
But there are two excellent set pieces. There is the actual Thunderdome fight itself, which is awesome.
he fights this dude called Master Blaster, who's like he's like the head of this. He's like the second in command of the. Or he's got a weird like business relationship with Tina Turner.
Yeah.
And they're a package deal, Master Blaster.
It's a little guy who's like the brains, and he sits on the back of a big guy who's
the brawn.
Yeah,
and he has to fight just the brawn, and then but like they're hooked
gets him
up
with a whistle.
They're hooked up on like Cirque du Soleil wires,
and
they're just flying through, and they're trying to grab weapons that are like at the top of the cage they're in.
Yeah,
fucking awesome.
Oh, dude! Even all these years later, the reveal that the brute is just
a mentally
yeah,
challenged.
he's just a guy. Like
that's crazy.
He's just a brother.
Yeah,
it really recontextualizes Mad Max.
You felt really represented by that,
just
huh?
beating the shit.
but it shows.
Well, to be fair, he stops. He stops once the helmet comes off.
That's the main conflict of the movie. Is he refuses to kill the guy.
It's funny that with the whistling, it's just him getting overstimulated.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's how you beat Venom.
Great. Awesome.
And then the final set piece of the movie where they're on like a train.
Yeah.
It's so cool, dude. It's so cool. There's some crazy stunts where like a guy falls and he's between two cars.
Yeah.
There's so much fun stuff.
Can we talk about how the gyro captain shows up again, but apparently isn't the gyro captain? See, this is the continuity shit that I'm talking about. Like, well,
it's a strange decision, and it's not a good one in my opinion. But
weird choice. But it's made even weirder because there is a moment in the movie where him and Max like recognize each other.
Yep.
When he first enters the
so it's like implied that it's the same character.
It feels weird, man. Yes, but no. I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking.
Weird. And he even flies a plane.
Yeah.
Tina Turner is very good in this movie. She's having a lot of fun.
Yeah, she's having a ball
with their big bosoms.
She's a commanding presence on the screen.
She's great, and I like her last scene where she just doesn't kill Max. That's a really fun moment. It's just this movie is super fucking solid.
Yeah,
and I don't think people give it the credit.
A huge fucking left turn out of the three.
Looks fucking great.
Looks incredible.
I know I said Road Warrior should be the first Mad Max movie you show someone. I think that should be the first Mad Max movie you show an adult. If you're going to show your kid a Mad Max movie for the first time, this would be the one to pick.
For me.
This would be the one to pick.
And I could totally see why this one used to be your favorite just because of the nostalgic attachment.
Yeah, man. Because
this
was a childhood classic.
Again, it feels like an Amblin film.
It really does.
So I'm giving it a 4. I'm giving it a 4.
I think I'm at a 3.5. I don't think I'm quite as high on it. I think it does.
It's a lighter 4 than Road Warrior.
It does definitely slog towards the back half, but I think it really, much like all the Mad Max movies, starts really strong, kind of lulls a little towards the second act, and then it really brings it back at the end.
Swinging.
What did you say for it?
3.5.
Okay.
And so that's kind of like that's my thing with these movies.
So you're 7 out of 10 trilogy?
7 out of 10 trilogy.
Yeah.
But the biggest surprise was how, like, this is going to sound crazy. I like the first Mad Max the most out of all of them.
It's very interesting. I don't agree, but I get it.
It was just kind of my appetite for movies these days. I think that one just really fits.
No, I think that first one.
And Thunderdome is kind of just this nostalgic, like,
sure.
I could throw it on in the back.
Oh, of course.
Just have a good time.
Hell yeah.
Let's get to it, dude.
31 years later, Jesus
years.
Christ, we had Mad Max Fury Road, which is like a soft reboot, but same continuity.
Yeah, whatever. Even at this point, like.
And in this one, Max kind of teams up with a
Charlize
Theron.
He teams up with actress Charlize Theron in the
playing
movie.
a character named Imperator Furiosa.
Can't believe you almost forgot her name for a second.
It was because I was trying to remember the word Imperator. But she is basically driving this fucking tanker car, tanker war rig.
With all these beautiful
babes in it. And she's... the faction that they focus on in this is the War Boys and the leader of them.
Yes.
And it's this guy named Immortan Joe. And he has a bunch of... what are they?
Played by Hugh Keays-Byrne, who plays Toe Cutter in the original.
Yes. And he... what are his wives called to him? They call them...
Breeders.
Yeah, I guess it is breeders.
That's his harem, dude.
It's basically, Furiosa smuggles all his prized breeders away to kind of take them to her home where she was kidnapped as a child.
It's like this fertile land, like there's like grass.
Decades.
Yep.
This movie, obviously, you know, Fury Road is fucking one of the best action movies of that last decade. Of course, it is.
Yeah.
It is incredible. It has some of the wildest stunts you will ever see in your life. And unlike the other ones where, like, there's a second act lull, this one's just all gas.
Amazing, just fucking
gung-ho.
Firing on all cylinders.
Some incredible storytelling via action.
Definitely.
It's not a perfect movie to me. It's a very great one.
Yeah.
I think it's consistently a movie. I watch it. I'm impressed by the scale, by everything about it. It's just one that I also have a few nitpicks with. You know.
You want to start with those nitpicks?
The nitpicks? Yeah. Yes. Some of the visual effects are
a little spotty.
Not great.
We'll say dated.
Dated.
The
dated.
fire tornado.
That looks great.
Yeah, I thought that looked great.
The storm?
Yeah. That's the first thing that comes to my mind.
So the one thing that stands out to me is like one of the final shots of the movie where that CGI wheel comes flying at the screen.
It's really bad.
I'm imagining Robert Rodriguez put on your 3D glasses, like flashing on the screen.
And the thing is, we're gonna get into Furiosa and the effects in that movie. But that movie kind of has a consistent look throughout it. Where in this one,
it's consistently bad.
No. We'll get to it.
We'll get to it.
This one, because it looks so practical most of the time, it makes those visual effects stand out worse. So the tanker flip and the whole Immortan Joe speech on the waterfall looks a little rough.
Yeah.
That's a nitpick.
Kind of like
there's some corny moments of editing. There are editing quibbles I have with all
he
5 of these
takes
Mad
what
Max
he like
movies.
established in the first movie and cranks it up, like injects it with nitrous.
Yes,
basically.
So I have nitpicks with the editing, nitpicks with some of the dialogue.
It is edited like a new metal music video sometimes,
and I don't love Tom Hardy in this movie.
So here's my big hot take. I've been waiting to go on this rant for a second.
Yeah,
I think Tom Hardy is fine as Max.
He's fine.
I think again. His this movie might have my least favorite characterization of him. Like, this might be my least favorite Max in all the Mad Max movies. Truth be told,
I can see that.
Yeah,
because he does feel like a different character. I realize logistically there's no way you could have. Morally, you shouldn't have. Obviously, because he's a bad dude. Part of me wishes, for the sake of continuity, Mel Gibson had cast him in this one.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like I would be more willing to buy like an older Max as this like he's like an asshole.
So
He's very cold and very like, you know, in like Thunderdome, he's like cracking jokes and he's still kind of like stoic, but like he's got riz. I don't know. I feel like I would be able to buy that transition a little better into being this like curmudgeon-y kind of like nothing matters anymore. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the movie where he has to like rediscover, and it would make that emotional arc of all the movies actually feel so more complete. I guess minor spoilers for all of these, right?
Yeah. We have.
Sorry, we didn't say that up top.
We're doing spoiler free for Furiosa.
But like that final shot, which is maybe my final shot, or my favorite final shot in all the Mad Max movies.
It's fucking great.
Where he's looking up at her in the crowd, and you have that moment where like he's kind of learned to like be a hero again by helping these people. You know, and obviously he's like he's helped in the other movies, but like this really felt like the one. This felt like the one where he didn't like get anything out of it. You know what I mean? Like, and so I don't know. I get why they didn't. I'm glad they didn't on like an ethical ground. I just
When did that happen? When
Mel Gibson?
Yeah.
Early 2000s, I think.
Oh yeah, like 2000.
I want to say it was a little after Passion of the Christ.
Okay, so maybe later 2000s.
Jesus in him.
Yeah.
Just fucking
I was too young to remember.
I want to say it was a little after Passion of the Christ.
Now that I have those nitpicks out of the way, oh my god.
Everything else is perfect. Like,
oh my god.
Awesome.
This is, you want to talk about a movie, I know I said this about the first movie, you want to talk about a movie that should be a fucking staple in film, like, curriculum.
Yeah.
This is like an achievement,
I think
in terms of filmmaking.
Beyond film, it's fucking biblical. Like, just you don't get scale like that in movies.
Never.
And we mentioned Dune Part 2 at the beginning of this episode. It's like, it reminded me of that, where it was.
Of course.
Just, and when that came out and it sweeped at the Oscars,
Which was so cool, by the way. Very based of the Academy.
Yeah, total. And like, I don't know, it was it's just so fucking grand. Where like, dude, smoke a little weed before you watch it. You're just like
mesmerized.
It's mesmerizing. You get lost in a trance every time I watch it.
It's Miller able to focus on his best aspects, which is the world building, which is his escalation of action sequences.
Well, I was gonna say, like, aside from some spotty digital effects here and there, maybe the best practical stunt work ever.
It's maybe. Top 5,
like ever.
So good.
There are incredible. I'm going to get more specifically into.
You can clearly tell watching this movie why it took 30 years to make.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even like his design decisions. You talked about the inside of the Storm. Whoever made it look that way, you're a genius.
Yeah.
Fucking incredible. Some of the best color correction ever. Mm-hmm. The oranges being so fucking saturated.
So vibrant, dude.
The nighttime scenes all blue and characters are highlighted in normal color when there's light sources around them. Unbelievable decision.
To add on to what you guys are saying, I think it's some of the best, like, and you can really fuck it up, and we'll get to that. But like, digital photography can be so spotty, and it really began to get spotty in like the early 2010s. Yeah. Certainly in the mid 2010s. This is one of the best. It's the best looking digital photography I've ever fucking seen.
Can I say a bold take? There. I think George Miller, for this movie specifically, I think I was kind of wondering, like, what is he feeding on for like the clear, like, distinct change in like visual presentation? I think he's taking a page directly out of the Michael Bay playbook with this movie in terms of like this
Michael Bay like. I'm surprised you say that about this one.
But like the way it's edited, like the high octane new metal music video, the very saturated oranges and the contrasting blues. Everyone's all sweaty and muddy all the time. It's almost like he's like taken like the best parts, because that era of filmmaking was kind of like what led up to this. You know what I mean? Like those kinds of action movies, and I feel like he kind of took that and applied like genuine, like oh, what if like a real filmmaker? I'm not saying Michael Bay isn't a real filmmaker. I'm a Michael Bay dick rider. But like George Miller, obviously they're not in the same ballpark. And I'm saying like, like what if he kind of like, he implements those principles into Mad Max to amazing effect.
Of course, yeah. I think that's fair. His direction is legendary in this movie. Unbelievable. Yeah. It is a man
maybe the best directed movie of all time. I don't know. Like
the vision's just so.
The score, weird, Junkie XL's score is fucking incredible. Furiosa has this amazing theme.
Yeah,
it's just
the loudest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yes. I'm going to talk about my two favorite set pieces now. One of them is not even a vehicle scene. It's the hand-to-hand fight scene between Furiosa and Max.
Yeah,
pretty good.
It's incredible. The editing of it, the sound design. Love it.
Yeah. Oh, the bit where at the end where he fires the gun into the sand. It's
But like and again, I'm going to talk about this later, but the way he escalates action scenes, so having Nicholas Hoult wake up and then grab the fucking thing and pull him and like...
George Miller has the exact same sensibility for action that like I gravitate to, where you treat action set pieces almost like a musical. Like,
it's why you love John Wick Chapter 4 so much.
It's the same exact thing where it's like a fucking Rube Goldberg device, you know what I mean? You just tip one domino, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it goes. And
the snowball rolling.
He has like a sense of that pace and how it goes.
The other best use of that in this movie is the sequence where Max is hanging off the side of a vehicle and Furiosa's holding onto him with the metal hand.
Yes.
He gets stabbed, she's dropping him. Nicholas Hoult pushes him onto another car. Oh my god. My actual favorite vehicle scene in the movie is the sequence where they encounter the people on the motorcycles that leap over them with the fuck. Oh my god, that scene is transcendent.
It's almost like it's almost hard to single out.
I know
action set piece because the movie is. Yeah. With the exception of a couple minutes of downtime, it is a giant action set piece,
dude,
and it's all great.
Dude, over 3 days.
Yeah,
that sequence where the gasoline spitting sequence where they're spitting it in the gun. That is so good.
What's I saw an interview recently where George Miller said his favorite shot in this movie is the shot of the rig with all the drummers on it, and then the camera swings around, and the dude hits the fucking guitar with the flames coming out. I'm like, that is like the ethos of this movie. Like that is everything this movie stands for.
Cinema.
Fucking incredible, dude. Do you have anything else to single out?
No, it's one big fucking cinematic blackout of it's operatic.
Yeah.
Looks incredible. I see what you guys mean with the Tom Hardy, where he's just he's like inoffensive as a Max.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
I think it works.
It's almost like the most passive he's felt in his own story.
I see him as sort of like just a vehicle for what is otherwise just like a spectacle.
This is true. He is like the POV, like every man that we are meant to like experience this around.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's a fucking massive symphony.
Yeah. I'm gonna say the one other thing that I have a nitpick with, just because it was at the end of my
ended on a sour note. Let's go.
Sometimes, and it's very much a me problem, but I can always tell when they use post stabilization on a shot, and it always bothers me. It's a digital trick. They use it quite a few times in this one too.
Yeah.
Miller in general is not afraid to use speed ramping.
Yeah.
Normal or conventions that normally people would find off-putting. Usually, he uses them really well.
Yeah.
The post-stabilization is one that always bothers me.
It's definitely like distracting. It's noticeable.
4.5.
I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about, so I'm not that noticeable. I would say
4.5 out of 5.
Also 4.5 out of 5.
4.5, baby.
4.5
across the board. I hate that we're so agreeable for our first episode. It's unfortunate that we had to start with absolute bangers.
Such a good series. Yeah. I know.
Too bad we couldn't have done the Minions again. Fuck.
We'll get to it later. So we're not repeating this argument today. A new Mad Max movie just came out.
Furiosa.
A Mad Max Saga. And
even though I saw it on Facebook earlier today advertised as Mad Max: Furiosa. So I don't know what the actual title of this movie is going to be officially. Because remember the Harley Quinn movie, or the Birds of Prey movie came out, and they kept changing the title.
Or Live, Die, Repeat.
Yeah, I hope this doesn't turn into one of those situations. This motherfucker does not have his phone on Do Not Disturb. Professional right here.
Professionalism.
So Furiosa is the origin story of Furiosa. It's basically
The standout character of Fury Road. I would like the one that
yes.
Played
in that movie by Charlize Theron, and this one by Anya Taylor-Joy and a younger actor that whose
name we don't know because they're who cares.
And it is basically George Miller telling the epic odyssey of her being kidnapped as a child from her beautiful village.
It's kind of like the Silmarillion to Fury Road's Lord of the Rings.
That's a great way to say it. Yeah, it is the lore. It's the world.
It's everything. It's like the Bible leading up to
and it's in its own way a coming of age movie.
Yeah.
Of Furiosa, and it's basically this big epic told in 5 parts of Furiosa leading up to Fury Road.
Yeah.
This movie is not like the other Mad Maxes.
No, it's not Fury Road.
And I respect that. It's not paced like any of the other ones.
Yeah.
It's not paced... The first vehicle action scene of this movie is halfway through.
Probably the one it is closest to the pacing of is probably the original.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, yes.
In terms of how much it kind of meanders complimentary.
So I want to say I respect George Miller for taking a swing, because he really takes a swing with this one.
Yeah.
And
another left turn, similar to one of
absolutely, and he he's kind of with his last movie, 300,000 or 3,000 Years of Longing, he kind of gets into the realm of myth making, and he kind of carries that motif over to this one, and it's one that I really like, storytelling and myth making, legends passed through time, stuff like that. Really like it.
Yeah.
The whole narrative device of the story being told to you by
it's very much sort of the telling of a legend.
Yes. I think the cast is great in this movie.
So good.
I think Anya Taylor-Joy is great,
and the young Anya Taylor-Joy,
fantastic.
We should probably look up this
yes,
actress's name.
I was saying this movie
it is
walking out of the theater.
Alea Brown. Alea.
It's I was looking at her and I thought, look at us playing on our phones.
Alila.
Oh,
Alila Brown.
I saw her. First of all, I saw the mom of
she's great
Furiosa
too.
She looks like this weird breed of Charlize Theron and Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah.
On top of that,
the casting director knocked it out of the fucking park.
The young Furiosa looks like a young Anya Taylor-Joy. It's
crazy. It's really, it really does.
One off kind of crazy.
One of those details that goes underappreciated until they get it right.
Every time I was looking at her, I was just kind of like
that is young Furiosa.
Anya was such good casting for this because they knew it was going to be a character that doesn't talk a lot, and she says so much with her eyes.
Who's got the biggest, buggiest eyes in Hollywood right now?
Oh, we're doing spoiler free for right now for Furiosa. Just want to remind myself to not. God, what was I going to say? Something interesting I found that gave me more respect for this movie is I found out the script for this movie was written before they filmed Fury Road.
Oh, really? So this has been cooking in the
Charlize Theron used this script as a way to give herself... Yes. Cool. So, it's not like some half-assed, thought-out prequel. This is the lore, the world building that he wanted.
He thought this shit through.
And what I also like about this movie a lot is the world building. He tackles a lot of the locations from Fury Road and what the culture is.
A lot of ones that just get mentioned in Fury Road.
My favorite thing about George Miller is how fucking creative he gets.
Oh, man.
With world building. This is, in my opinion, far and away the most,
probably the most interesting The Wasteland's ever been as a location.
And I want to get into, I was mentioning cast, and I didn't mention the best villain in the Mad Max franchise, Dementus, played by Chris Hemsworth, who I think fucking kills it
in this movie.
I think you might have...
We have a bit of a disagreement
I think it's objectively a great performance. The dude is having the time of his
He really is.
Yes.
And I mean, how could he not after...
I will say, the 1-2 between him and Immortan Joe is, goated. Those are two of the best
100%.
antagonists of maybe the last, 20 years of movies.
Yeah, and he is intentionally funny in it. There are many moments where I was kind of like chuckling, just kind of like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It never felt like Marvel humor though, or something like
that's
that.
what I was gonna say. Like, how could he not give it this level?
And
after
I think
years of Thor?
I think I was saying after we saw it, I kind of appreciated, because besides like Toe Cutter in the original, all of the other villains are very like serious and like commanding. Like, I am Lord Humongous of the Wasteland. So it was kind of nice to have an antagonist who's just as like evil and conniving and manipulated, but is also just a cocky douchebag, like walking around acting like he knows what he's doing, talking a bunch of shit. I don't know, like I thought his performance was really entertaining.
Yeah. And I tell you what, I know, spoiler free.
Yeah, and we can get into spoilers in a bit.
That final monologue is
brings the whole thing
really good.
That
all
sequence
together.
Is amazing.
I love it.
Amazing.
That final scene is maybe a contender for my favorite scene in this whole series. Whole series.
Mad Max. I would probably. There's a stunt in it, or I should say, an entire sequence in it.
It's a top 3 action scene.
It is unfucking believable. I want to point this out because I saw it in the trailer. The midge that comes out of like the he is
Listen, we won't cut this stuff, but you do maybe add some beeps here and there.
Trust me, I can take this shit another level if you want me to.
I don't want you to.
No. So a few years ago, there was a viral video of.
I thought it was that kid.
It is this, and when the video came out, it's essentially a mother recording what seems to be her son, who has defects, and he's crying because he got bullied, and the whole world.
Yeah, I remember this.
For him.
I remember this
That was
vividly.
that kid,
and it turned out to be fucking fake.
Yeah,
and
isn't he like 35?
He's an actor. He's a grown man.
That's crazy.
Crazy that he's grown, but like, he's a grown man who's an actor. And when that turned out to be fake, I remember being like fucking twerp, like, are you kidding me?
Now I want to bully him.
But so he got casted in this. There's another one.
Yeah.
There is, and I'm gonna name drop. There is a guy on Instagram who is a singer named Sean Willis. He is the first. What's like the white paint people?
Like the War Boys?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's the first one you see. He's got a really weird looking face.
Yeah.
What people like to say about him on Instagram is that he looks like if you melted or put Gordon Ramsay in the microwave. He is also.
Wait, let me see him.
In this.
Let me see.
I don't have a picture
I thought
of him
you
right
were
now.
He's on the cast.
Interesting.
If you want to try and find him. But I really kind of like that George Miller he casted some low-key Aussie legends.
Yeah.
Sure. I was actually going to say, so I found out...
Well, it's like how CSI or whatever, they just cast actors that live in New York. You know, if they only got to drive like 2 minutes to set.
Yeah.
And,
like Law and Order.
I was going to say, Dementis has a side character. He has like a gaggle of characters around him. One of them, there's a sequence near the end involving sand that he's a part of. Do you know what character I'm talking about?
He's like his gimp, like his jester.
Yeah. He plays Johnny in the original Mad Max.
Really?
Yeah. So he reincorporates these actors all the time.
Nepotism has gone too far, guys.
Okay.
You're telling me Joaquin Phoenix has been in more than one Paul Thomas Anderson movie? I won't stand for it.
Before we get into spoilers about the structure and everything, there is a big point that you want to get out of the way. I know you've been holding it in. Just say it.
Let it out. Let it rip.
I'll preface it because one thing I can say about this movie is that the trailer is great because you can tell exactly how you're going to feel about this movie.
That is
what
true.
You're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
It's definitely like surprising in many ways, positively.
Certainly wears itself on its sleeve.
The first fucking thing that I noticed when I saw the trailer for this movie is how much I hate the way it looks. I think this movie looks like a cinematic game trailer from a PlayStation showcase.
There is a flatness to the desert landscapes in this that I don't understand. If it was like a budgetary restriction or something,
I
like
have no idea
I get it. But if that was like a creative choice,
I genuinely can't articulate it. It is like,
especially having just seen Fury Road like the day before, you know,
totally
like the contrast. It really is night and day.
I love the digital look of Fury Road there, and not even just like the visual look, but like this whole movie moves like jelly. Like, it looks like it has fucking motion smoothing on. And we talked about how George Miller likes to use, what is that term?
Post-stabilization and speed ramping and all that stuff.
It almost looks like when there's like a one-take scene, like from The Bear, but there's like ghost cuts in it that you can kind of like pretty obviously tell.
Sure.
Yeah. The whole movie's shot like that and moves like that. Yeah. And it's, I guess not as much as I think it is, because you guys don't mind, but it's distracting for me. I didn't like the way it looked.
I like the look of this movie while recognizing that there are parts of it that I don't like the way it looks. I think that there are some effects where I'm genuinely like, yeah, that's pretty bad.
I just don't like how washed the colors have become. Like,
I agree. I don't like how they turn the saturation down from Fury Road. I wish they would have kept that.
It kind of looks like the Russo brothers directed it. Like,
it looks like
and it almost makes me think like I know the script came out before Fury Road, but it almost makes me think like George Miller still treated this like a side one. A little bit, like maybe didn't put quite as much effort into like the details of this one a little bit.
30 years to make it.
It just, I don't know. I understand where you're coming from, and yes, some of the green screen is distracting, and some of the CG is distracting.
I don't even know what it is, because also apparently this movie uses more practical effects than like Fury Road. I don't know where I heard that.
I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe that because there's a lot more. In this one, I noticed there's a lot more like digital stunts too, especially towards the beginning.
Yeah,
like the people like crashing and flying off of motorcycles. It's just CGI, and it kind of like it kind of takes something out of that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
overall, I still think this movie, and I think what overcomes some of that flat green screen, some of that bad dodgy CG, is his direction. Because the way the camera moves is still so good and still so confident.
He's not lost the ability to stage an action scene.
Correct.
You know,
we're gonna get to in a second.
Yeah.
You know what? You want to just say spoilers now?
Let's get into it.
Spoilers. Okay, so yes, like I said at the beginning, this movie is divided into 5 acts. Yeah. The first 2 acts are young Furiosa being taken from her home and kind of acclimatizing to the Citadel.
Probably the worst part of the movie, I would say.
No, I was the first.
I think this movie starts really slow.
I was expecting to not like it in the beginning, so I guess.
And then because that first scene with the CGI stunts, and it's like I'm kind of like
that first scene.
I'm kind of like I mean I like it, but I just wish it was. Yeah. I wish the effects were better. It's distracting and it made me worrisome. For the rest of the movie, like I'm on board, but
I'm with you.
But I think the scene where we're all talking about, where they take the war rig out for the first time,
fucking Christ.
Act 3.
Like once that scene starts, this movie takes the fuck off.
It's like a 15-minute action scene.
Like once I saw unreal. Like that's like the first like real, genuine, practical action set piece in the movie.
And then Furiosa on the bottom of this fucking rig, hiding from the crew.
You want to talk about the Indiana Jones comparison? I think that scene is directly inspired by the action scene in Raiders, where he's crawling underneath the army truck in the desert, but she's like under there doing repairs and shit.
But this is the embodiment of his escalation of action.
Yeah.
The way when they brought out the people on the parachutes flying, I was like giddy in the theater.
I would maybe like to see an action scene in a Mad Max movie that isn't just a bunch of people chasing a big truck.
Well, that's Mad Max, though.
But it doesn't have to be. Unless that is true. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I would have maybe. This is not a complaint for that scene. This is kind of a complaint about the movie. I would have maybe preferred a little more. Like, you know, this is a new character. Like, let's give her something new to do.
But I do think there's variety in the storytelling and the method of
yes.
In fact, this is the big set piece. Not to say that there aren't other action sequences, but this is the big one.
Yeah.
It has one of my favorite stunts.
It's like this in the Bullet Farm.
This is maybe my second or third favorite stunt in all the Mad Max movies, is the one where through the whole scene they're setting up the stick of dynamite.
Yeah.
And eventually a war boy just leaps on a car in front of them and it flips up on top of the convoy and then flips around and like hits people and is fucking insane.
Sitting next to Kyle while that was happening in the theater.
Dude was giggling to himself and shit.
Like it was just like, oh my god, this is the George Miller.
Yeah, man.
The legend.
He just had to flex a little bit.
It's the spectacle. I will say that whole 15-minute sequence that we've been basically blowing this whole time.
Yeah.
Like, that is my favorite stunt in all of Mad Max movies.
Based.
Can we talk about the bullet farm? Because
Yeah.
that is like there's sort of an intricacy of it that I wasn't expecting.
Like
Basically,
her having to like snipe like the
Yeah,
guys
so
while
they-
he's like
so
piloting
they-
the truck through
they
it.
infiltrate this bullet farm with the big rig, and she's in the V8.
Yeah.
And he's basically like, fucking go,
Yeah, get
get
the
out of
fuck
here.
out of here.
I'll take care of this shit. So she leaves. They close a gate to the entrance, and basically she is from the outside shooting in, defending this rig,
Yep.
while the rig. What is that character's name?
Jake?
Jack.
Jack.
So while he's taking on the incoming
Yeah.
enemies, and it's kind of, I don't know, like that was something that I wasn't ready for.
Yeah.
I loved it.
It was awesome.
It was so fucking cool.
And like you got so much character from Dementis, the villain, in that moment
Yeah.
too. Yeah,
That's probably my favorite like scene with him. Whenever he's behind the pillar,
Yeah.
she's like taking shots. He's,
fun fact: that actor Tom Burke, who plays Jack, Hideo Kojima tweeted that while he was watching the movie, he saw that actor and was like, he could play Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid.
oh, 1 million.
And I was like, that's fucking.
Yeah.
And when the creator of Metal Gear Solid cites it, like that's fucking
Shit,
fantastic.
I need that.
Make
Yeah.
it happen, Hideo.
Please. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the first two acts are the weakest, although I really like them.
Yeah.
Third kicks into high gear, and then 4 and 5 are really character driven.
Yeah.
5 especially.
The finale of the movie, it makes the bold choice to not really end on a big action set piece.
Yes.
It's
so fucking personal.
just like a final confrontation between Furiosa and Dementis. Kind of just like, well, okay, I guess we didn't mention Dementis kills, spoilers, kills Furiosa's mother.
And then her love interest,
the
too.
one, well, he's the one who like takes her away
Yes,
from
correct.
the green place.
Like indoctrinates her.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they didn't go the route of making her a sex slave.
Yeah, I'm glad too.
It was very
Yes.
And there's a scene actually where I guess I forget which place that they're at, but it's with all the like whole people.
Drizzy Dementis.
And I'm still recovering, dude. That's not a funny joke.
You're right. I'm sorry, man. That's, I gotta check my privilege.
My
Like,
joke, dude. Whenever the whole people like try to steal Furiosa,
Yeah.
from, and he like it's almost kind of like this fatherly.
Yeah.
Like he grabs her, puts her on.
well,
Like,
yeah.
he mentions like he lost daughters, like so,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
in his
He's a
own
surrogate kind
in
of
his
thing.
own twisted, fucked up way. I think he
Yeah.
does care for
No,
Furiosa.
100%.
Yeah.
Like-
and that's what makes that final monologue scene so fucking
Like,
satisfying.
Like I think that's kind of something that's missing from all the other Mad Max movies. Is not once does he ever have any kind of personal connection to the villain,
Yeah.
or the antagonist. Like
And-
it's always just some guy he runs into.
And the way that sequence is her just beating the shit out of him because he cannot give her back like anything that she's taken.
yeah, but
he's
she
taken.
still like can't bring herself to kill him because she knows like.
Back to me.
Like
Yeah.
it's not going to change anything, and if she kills him, that's just
Then
her
she doesn't get anything.
kind of. Well, it's just kind of her stooping to his
a
level.
fantastic decision to not make it clear the way that she kills him.
Well, I don't know. I think they make it pretty clear.
They do, but they don't, because that can also be
That goes into the
Yeah.
sort of telling of a legend.
yes.
I'm with Jordan. I think they make it pretty clear
That it's the tree.
And,
I mean,
and
that's
it's satisfying
fine.
when
Yes.
she picks the apple.
That's what I'm
But
saying.
it- But it adds to sort of this legend and like
Yes.
Well, it's like
you
the
just-
people of the wasteland don't know what happened,
Exactly.
but we know what
Right.
happened.
Hearsay.
Like,
Right.
which is crazy. She fucking so in the beginning of the movie before she leaves, her mom gives her like a seed from the green place to like remember it by. She's like, plant the seed, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes.
I don't really know what she means by that because she's in the fucking desert.
Yeah, like well, where? Like
Yeah.
So
fucking.
they're not here.
But at the end of the movie, she like straps fucking Chris Hemsworth to the floor, and I guess makes him eat it.
I think she cut out
Yeah.
the boy's groin. Took his weapon away.
I wonder if it was, or
He is
maybe-
the tree
I wonder
now.
if it was like bamboo torture. You know about that?
Yeah, where they put
Where they strap you down and then they plant it under you and they let it like grow through
God.
you. Yeah, dude.
Dude, the way they kill her love interest in it's crazy. They drag him behind the cars and then let the dogs out. That's fucking insane.
Can I get a little cinema Cincy for a moment?
Go for it.
How does she get out of
How
that?
does she get out of that situation?
'Cause they're
I know she
circling
cuts her
around her.
arm off, but they're circling around her for
It's a
hours.
strange. It's weird.
They're lost in the sauce, dude.
And I think
Teleports.
that is ultimately what makes this a worse movie than Fury Road. is Fury Road's just a little tighter when it comes to like the minutia, like the details. You know what I mean? Like it has a little bit more of like all of its bases covered and checked. I think Furiosa's more concerned with telling a grander story,
the ambition,
and sacrifices some of the filmmaking in service of that. But not enough to like. It's the difference between a 4.5 and a 4. You know what I mean? Like,
but I think
it is the lesser film for it, in my opinion.
But it ups the character for me. It ups the world building and the structure.
But I'm saying like in terms of like the quality
and I agree with you. I agree with you.
But I do love the world building. I love that this is a movie where you're just given time to just kind of like experience this world for a little bit. That's some of like the best parts of like the original trilogies too, is where it's just Max just kind of like vibing in these really weird exotic locations. Like Bartertown is really interesting in the third one, and it's cool just seeing like how these locations work and like the logistics of this new like pseudo feudalist government they've established here.
Yeah, it was awesome. I really liked it. Anything else to add before we go?
I only have a recap on how I feel.
I'm trying to think. I think that might be all I got to say about Furiosa.
I loved the big swing he took here.
Yeah.
If
you are already a Mad Max fan, I think you will.
It's just more.
Just don't expect Fury Road.
Correct.
Yes. Expect like a really good companion piece to Fury Road.
Great way to say it.
You know what I mean?
Great way to say it. For me, this is basically tied with Road Warrior, and I'm giving it a strong 4.
I agree, strong 4. I think someone out there could make a really strong supercut of this and Fury Road as one movie.
I think that this does what a good prequel should do, which is deepen the...
Yes, it makes Fury Road better in hindsight. So
now when I'm watching that, I'm going to be thinking about like the stuff she goes through in this one, and that's a great thing that a prequel can do.
Absolutely.
So to add to that, the final shot of this movie is sort of the flash forward to now Charlize Theron and how she gets...
She's getting all the brides onto the truck and everything. Well, I know it's kind of a similar last shot too in Fury Road where like the platform like moves up. In this one, she's like closing the hatch and that like you know.
What are you gonna give it?
I loved it. Well, I really liked it. Great theater experience.
Yes.
I wish I enjoyed looking at it more.
Yeah. I will say, I think watching that Wicked trailer right before it started may have derailed your whole experience.
By the way, I missed the time when Ariana Grande didn't look like she did coke for fucking 20
She's
years.
Collecting like racial caricatures like fucking Infinity Stones.
Oh, she looks like a fucking Minecraft skeleton.
Yeah. That's Botox, dude. That's what the buccal fat removal does to you.
And one more thing about Furiosa, I don't know if it's worth losing a fucking eardrum over, because it's the loudest fucking movie ever.
I didn't even think it was
Listen, dog. Yeah. If you don't want your Mad Max movies rupturing your eardrums, like
you were in that Dolby theater.
That's what I come there for.
It's the first one I saw in theaters, though. To be fair.
Really? Yeah. Did you see Fury Road in theaters?
Yes,
I saw Fury Road in theaters. That was a treat.
I gave it a 3.5.
Fair enough. Is that? Besides Fury Road, is that 3.5s across the board? Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Do we want to do a series ranking right now?
Sure. Sure. Kyle, you want to start us off?
Fury Road, Furiosa, Road Warrior, Thunderdome, Original. OG.
Big D, Dill Pickle.
Fury Road, OG, Thunderdome, Furiosa. No, Road Warrior, Furiosa.
Interesting.
Furiosa's last.
Yep.
Okay. All right, guys. Hot take, I know.
Yeah.
Fury Road number 1.
Yeah.
Road Warrior number 2.
Yeah.
Furiosa number 3. Thunderdome, the original.
Okay. We have basically the same.
I thought you were going to put Thunderdome higher. I was ready to fuck.
No,
yeah.
I think not Thunderdome. I think Road Warrior and Furiosa could
neck.
That's like neck and neck.
That's what I'm
Those
saying.
two are right about
So, very consistent series.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Great shit. It helps that it's been one guy leading the charge.
Well, also just like impressive longevity too. Like the fact that he
50 years later was still
kicking. Like the 50 years later and it's better.
Yeah.
Like
hopefully Mad Max The Wasteland comes out and is like the finale.
I was going to say I think like ending it like with kind of one more, like let's give it one last every stunt you never got to do, let's fucking do it, George. Like let's fucking cook. And I also again, that was a nice side thing. But like, let's see what Max is up to. Who also pops into a
Little cameo.
in this one, which I thought was very tasteful. I was worried that was going to get egregious.
Yeah.
I was
No.
I was worried that was going to get
Cute.
annoying.
Yeah. That's the episode. We are back. Cinema
Max.
Shakedown is back.
And better than ever, some might say.
Some might say.
Some may also disagree.
Yeah.
With the
Depends how much of that I cut out.
new supporting cast.
So that's the first episode. Next week, we are going to be talking about a slasher that I am not remembering the name of right now.
In a Violent Nature.
In a Violent Nature. That's the name of the episode.
These guys have been so hyped, so jazzed to watch this movie.
That's great. I'm tired.
Professional.
So we all decided to pick a slasher film to watch and discuss. I will state mine first. I picked the horror comedy Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Great. Can't wait for that.
What do you got?
1979's Black Christmas.
Sick.
Which I have not seen.
Classic. Not seen it either.
And I, of course, will be going with the Warwick Davis classic Leprechaun. I picked.
That'd be great.
We'll save that for a St. Patty's Day episode.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make you watch all dudes.
No.
St. Patty's Day next year. We're sitting down and watching all the Leprechaun movies. But I picked the 2017 French horror thriller Revanche, which is kind of a fun little twist on the slasher genre.
So we kind of got the comedy, we got the classic, we got like
got a little something for everything, and I'm kind of glad none of us picked like any of the obvious choices, like Texas Chainsaw, Halloween.
Yeah. We'll get to those.
Sure. Well, we've already talked about Scream.
We've talked about Scream. We'll get to the other classics.
I think we've talked about. Did we talk about Halloween?
We talked about the new ones. I don't think we talked about the original.
Might as well have been 10 years ago.
So that's the episode. Thank you for listening. If you like the podcast,
which I know you do.
This is our first one that's going to be on YouTube,
TikTok, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you can be reached, we will find you.
And if you want to follow
Napster, MySpace, AOL.
If you want to follow me personally, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Kyle Craigbaum. That's KRIEGHBAUM.
And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at J_Dennis99. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Cinema Shakedown and on Instagram at Cinema Shakedown Pod. Dylan, where can the people find you?
So realistically, you can check the bio on the Cinema Shakedown Instagram, and my Instagram is there.
I can't wait to see you have to do press for the short film you're making. I can't wait to see you try and get people to watch this. Hey, you fucking people, I made this.
No, I'll turn on. I'll
turn on the Riz for that.
We will see you guys next week. Take it easy.
Love you.
Ciao.